What lessons have you learnt during lockdown? This past week, we entered into our third phase of coming out of lockdown. Now, everything continues to be very different and many restrictions are still in place. But for some of us this week, we've been able to travel to see family. We have been able to go into shops that have been closed before. We've been able to eat in restaurants, and we've finally been able to get our haircut. And for us as a church, this is the first time in nearly 4 months that our buildings have been open for worship. The worst of the lockdown seems to be in the past, yet normal life is still in the future. So this seems to be a really important moment where we can pause and reflect. We can think about the past, about the lessons we've learned, and about what we can take with us into that future. If you can remember those early days of March, at the very beginning of the lockdown, there seemed to be this feeling that God was trying to teach us something. That maybe as a society we'd gone in the wrong direction, that we'd become too materialistic, too busy, too selfish. And people suggested that perhaps God was trying to teach us about what was really important in life and give us an opportunity to make adjustments. And even though for some of us the lockdown was a difficult and painful trial, yet through it we saw and learned key things about ourselves and about faith. Over these next few weeks at church, we're going to be doing a series that's going to help us think about the lessons we learned during lockdown. And whether you're watching this video at home or you're joining with us in person, it'll be the same talks, so nobody needs to miss out. But today's video, we're thinking about remembering. There is a story in the Bible about God's people entering into the promised land that I think has something really important to speak to us at this moment. The story is in Joshua chapters 3 and 4. And the Israelites, because of their unfaithfulness, had spent 40 years in the desert, locked out of the home that God had promised to give them. But now the time was right, and they were ready to enter in and receive all the good things that God had promised to them. There was just one problem. The river Jordan was physically preventing them from walking across into the land. It was harvest time and the river was flooding, and there was just no way that they could get across. But through this problem, God was going to show the Israelites and the world how powerful He is. Joshua told the people, "Purify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do great wonders among you." And what happened next was amazing. God told the priests who were carrying the ark to step out into the river. And as soon as their feet touched the river's edge, the river stopped flowing. God made a way, and the people were able to cross over on dry land. There are no dead ends in God's plans. What we think are obstacles are actually just opportunities for God to show His power. Many of you will know that my wife and I were due to get married near the beginning of lockdown. But due to the restrictions, we weren't able to have our wedding or even see each other for 7 weeks. And there were some really difficult moments during those days. There was disappointment about what didn't happen, frustration about what was happening, and uncertainty about what would happen. But one of the things that we would say to encourage each other was that today's trials are tomorrow's testimonies. Because we knew that one day God would rescue us from our problems and our hearts would overflow with praise. There are no obstacles to God, just opportunities for Him to show us His goodness and His power. The river was not a roadblock into the promised land, it was a display of God's power. But as the people were walking over on dry land, Joshua commanded them to pick up 12 stones from the riverbed. Why? So that they would remember the rescue. This is what it says in chapter 4, verse 6. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. They were to make sure that they would remember the rescue. The sad truth is that because of our sinful condition, we are very quick to forget the amazing things that God does. We see this pattern the whole way through the Bible, where God's people would be in trouble, they'd pray to Him for help, He'd hear their prayer, He would rescue them, and everything would be great for about 5 minutes. Then, like spiritual goldfish, they would forget all the things that they had seen God do, and life would go back to how it was before. And we are in danger of doing the same thing. Good can come out of this crisis. We can change for the better, but it won't happen by itself. We need to remember the lessons that we have learnt. So, as we continue on in this journey, what stone do you need to pick up from these last few months and take with you into the future? Was there maybe a verse that was encouraging you along the way? Did you pray about something and you saw that prayer being answered? Was there a godly habit that you picked up? In what ways have you seen God at work in your life or in this world around us that you want to make sure that you don't forget about? Today we have an opportunity to look back and see how God has been kind and faithful to us. So let's take this opportunity to give thanks to the Lord for His goodness and to remember His unfailing love.